Mateo opens his heart and tells Lucas that he's in love with Julieta. Lucas seems oddly shocked by this rather obvious news. Rosa keeps asking Beatriz about what happened and guesses that Cornelio cheated. She should just throw him out of the house. What if Prospero does it? No, he won't dare try that. Meanwhile, as the topic escalates, we see our dear Deborah approaching the door as if she knew the topic was touching on her, but she's here to talk business with Rosa's family. Agustin is brought home by Brian, and for some reason he keeps mumbling over different stuff, "Ooh, the nurse was hot," and etc., but Brian manages to calm him down. In the office, Sarah and Juan talk about some stuff and they plan to check on the fertilizer prices, and she goes to get the list from Julieta, but anyway Juan informs her that he'd like to visit Agustin alone despite Sarah offering to accompany him. Julieta tries to prevent Sarah's work from being done efficiently by denying her the list, coming up with all the excuses in the world, but Sarah manages to finesse it around, and she later tells him about Mateo's accident, which she comments that Mateo has always been depressed and she doesn't know how he'll survive when Juan and her will get married and relocate. Juan opens a small safe and gets a small box which reminds him of the past when he and Pedro really had a lot of problems getting food to eat as their mom was very poor then. He gets a knock at the door and it's Julieta, who is here to ask about Mateo. She's told exactly what Sarah told her and she says they need to help him out. Juan wants to take him to rehab. Dante goes to see Juan as soon as Julieta comes out. Sarah follows her as they need to cancel some orders and Julieta yells at her loudly in front of all other workers. Sarah keeps her calm and warns her never to try that on her again. She locks the office door and tells her to pick up the phone and cancel the placed orders immediately. Dante plays a game and paints Sarah to be a bad spender who has debts everywhere, and this threatens Santa Catalina, so he has to pay Sarah's debts as soon as possible. Juan is shocked. Deborah and Rosa keep talking about their business ventures and etc., and Pedro comes in to ask for a chance to have a private talk with Beatriz. Deborah is shocked to hear that Pedro wants to talk to such a lowly girl, but Deborah fills her in on the gossip. Pedro confesses to Beatriz that the DNA test proves that Tadeo is his son, and so he's going to give him his last name and also take him to live in Santa Catalina with him. As soon as she starts complaining, we see Cornelio approaching ready to deal with Pedro. Pedro and Cornelio get into a physical fight and Modesto arrives just in time to separate them. Cornelio warns Pedro to stay away from his family and Pedro warns him on the same. Pedro makes it clear to Beatriz that Tadeo will be brought up in Santa Catalina whether she likes it or not. Juan is still shocked with Sarah's financial situation, but anyway he will have to sort it out because maybe Sarah didn't want to tell him as she felt ashamed or etc. Anyway he orders him not to tell Sarah anything. Dante is filled with greed after hearing this from Juan. Anyway he advises him to take a trip with Julieta to relax as he's been busy nowadays. Juan doesn't like the idea. Sarah and Julieta are still discussing about the fertilizer prices that Julieta ordered. Sarah claims it's too expensive and Julieta says it's the best quality and the company has been using it all the time. They later agree that they won't change the company supplying, but she should at least negotiate with the suppliers. Cornelio and Modesto are at Salvador's bar. Both Cornelio and Salvador accuse Modesto of siding with Pedro instead of his son because, as they say, Cornelio was wronged here and he has a right to take his pound of flesh. Pedro runs into Paloma and Tadeo in town and he takes Tadeo for lunch.